Hello and welcome to What Are You Saying? Hashtag Ways, where we talk about topics in the news as it affects us all. I am Musayome Sale, and today I have the delectable Alero Boyo and the gorgeous Utsi Elu. Hello, ladies.
Hi.
How you doing?
You have two boyos in the same room.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I never knew. It was at the Shekiri
How can
Parako.
you not know? It's a
can
very
you not
shocking
know?
Okay,
set
wait,
right
wait,
now.
wait. Okay, your
Her
broad
mother-
family is the
My
Boyo
mother
family.
is Boyo.
Oh.
Yeah. So, our big family.
Huge, massive family.
Big family.
Worry we
100
hello.
118 wives.
Is a lie.
Yeah.
We need to talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do you guys not know each other? So you're not going to marry each other?
But that's,
That's-
how you don't know each
that's-
other. But anywhere the Boyo name is involved, blood is connected.
Yeah.
You kidding?
Yeah.
Yeah.
118 wives, one man.
One man. He was very wealthy. And we hear that women just used to submit themselves to him because he was very generous. They had money.
Where is the well, Father Lord?
Oh, Lord.
So that I can go and meet him.
You don't say.
Don't say hundreds of years
Are you
ago.
kidding? 118 wives.
Yeah, the Boyos are very, very, very big. And then now that they've been like the interracial marriage, the Yorubas,
All
the
over,
Igbos.
all
So
over.
even the whites, there are so many white people now that you see that they actually have like the Boyo lineage. It's massive. In fact, there was a time during one of the meetings, we have like family meeting called Boyo Next
It's
Gen.
carnival.
So, and they had to advise all of us, like, make sure that you ask questions when you're dating. Who is your mother? Who is your father? Who is your cousin? Ask questions before you go end up marrying your cousin or you marry your distant relative and you have to go and be doing sacrifice to change this.
See me looking at both of
But
you.
yeah,
Whoa.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but as you can tell, Alero's more involved.
Yeah, that-
Not anymore. Not anymore, though. Since my dad passed, I haven't been so involved.
Wow.
But hey, such is
Wow.
life.
Wow. That's huge.
Yeah.
That's really huge. This well. If you're yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel, it's at Official Upgrade TV. Please go there now. Go and click the subscribe button, like, share, and share the link as well to someone that you think might want to watch tonight's show. All right, so tonight we want to navigate suicide, right? Mental health, and of course, its legal boundaries. And here's what we found as today's quote. Though no one can go back and make a brand new start, anyone can start and make a brand new ending. This is from Carl Bard. So as I mentioned earlier, we want to discuss navigating suicide, mental health, and its legal boundaries. And to join us in this conversation will be a storyteller, a product marketer, Bofamene Joseph. She'll be joining us much later. And when we open our phone lines, I really love to hear your thoughts on suicide. And, if you have any experience you'd love to also share with us, I would love to hear that. But first, let's run off on a break. When we come back from that break, we want to see what we found in today's news. All right, you're still watching Ways Now International Day for the Elimination of Sexual Violence in Conflict. Now, this day designated by the United Nations aims to raise awareness of the need to end conflict-related sexual violence, to honor the victims and survivors of sexual violence around the world, and pay tribute to those who have devoted their lives to eradicating these crimes. Now, the significance of this day is to create awareness, advocacy, and action. The date marks the anniversary of Security Council Resolution 1820 in 2008, which condemns sexual violence as a tactic of war and an impediment of peace building. Now, United Nations General Assembly declares June 19th International Day for Eliminating Sexual Violence in Conflict. All right, so one of the things that I dread is rape.
Yeah.
I remember when I was in university, and of course, the way our university was structured, we lived off campus, myself and my two sisters, and because before we were coming, we had like family friends that we always used to call them cousins, but they were guys, so they had already prepped us that it's not usually too safe. So when you're coming in, make sure that your parents invest. After the landlord has finished building his house, you go and buy all those protectors, those metal protectors and all of those things. And I remember that one of those nights when I had finished exam final year and all of that, some robbers came to the hostel. They came about 7 a.m. By the time they came, if you see the speed that we ran, so later they came back at 2 a.m. in the night. That night they actually raped my neighbor. It was really bad. Thank God that we had that. In fact, they didn't even bother to match our door because they knew. So they were familiar people that were around that area. Now, this is not even in a war situation. Now, picture what happens during
I was even going to say that
crisis and all of those things. Like, they just have free for all.
It's even...
And women and children, girl children are the main victims. Even now, I hear they rape a lot of boys.
No, I say to even talk about it is to not even understand it, to experience it. I remember having to read the stories of families who were seeking visa, submitting visa applications. Either for last family member to join or asylum applications. And, they have to write detailed reports of their experiences. It's not what you see in the movies. When you watch certain war movies, particularly those ones that showcase conflicts in Africa, you see it, and but when you are reading somebody's real story, it's just chilling,
Extremely.
And the way it dehumanizes a person, I think for me, that's the most painful thing to read. I can't even imagine experiencing it. Let's not even go down that path.
Absolutely.
But to even read it and hear somebody narrate what they went through, it's almost
really horrific.
You are like, I know I'm not experiencing this, but even in that, the way you're feeling is already bad enough. So,
absolutely.
I mean, more days like this to raise awareness. There are a lot of organizations that are fighting for this, but it's used as a weapon, sadly, in these things, to spread fear, to spread panic, to spread mayhem. It just, sadly, just shows you that the human condition can be desperately evil.
Absolutely. All right, let's quickly run through our what's in the news. Alera, should I go with you first?
Yes, so on my news story today, cholera, the WHO and UNICEF holds emergency meeting. Experts warn coppers. As Nigerian battle cholera outbreak in 30 states, the World Health Organization, the United Nations and Children Funds, and the International Organization for Migration held an emergency meeting on Tuesday in Lagos State. He said, so the representative of WHO, Mr. Walter Mulombo, disclosed on his X handle that the UNICEF Nigeria is holding an emergency meeting to actually pour more light on, the cholera outbreak in Nigeria, which has actually spread across 30 states. And the Nigerian Center of Disease Control and Prevention had its latest report of about 1,141 suspected cases and over 65 confirmed cases of cholera and about 30 deaths in across the 30 states. This is one of the craziest things, even though we've had like cholera outbreak before, but because of what happened with COVID, it's now becoming more scary because I read about something online last week, a woman that came to Nigeria to visit her family, and 2 days later she dies of cholera. And you're wondering like, this whole thing of trying to wash our hands and trying to be safe, it's now like, it's beyond that. Because now that there's like poverty, a lot of people are going through so much, the way food is being held, the way things are being done, it's just like you don't even know what else to do right now just to, to survive.
Even
it's
buying,
so scary.
buying things as...
It's so scary.
Buying things like water, buying things like on things in
Fruits.
traffic, fruit and all of, you have to be extremely careful because now, because of this same hardship and poverty, a lot of people are no longer even. First of all, there was there were no there were no safety quality control measures in the first place. So they're just cutting a lot of corners. Thank you. And you're just seeing so many things in the name of, I want to sell, being packaged. So you have to be careful.
Trying to survive. I think I shared a couple of weeks ago. People using chemicals to freeze
water,
ice block, and so it is really. When you think about it now, you're just telling yourselves, please, we need to all be careful as much as possible. Prepare your food yourself. If you're going to, because this is really coming from contaminated water or contaminated food. is you have to warm the food in the pot. This is not microwave
Yeah.
warming to be able to deal with this. I mean, no matter what, soap is cheap. Buy a pack of pure water to wash your hands. I mean, it's really, really important, because the scary part about this cholera is that because we already self-medicate a lot, right? We think that, oh, I'm just purging, or oh, my tummy is just running, and you're going to the toilet, and then you're not replacing. I mean, I have a member of my team who he chatted me this morning, and he said, oh, both him and his wife, they don't know what they ate, they're feeling bad, and I said, please go to the hospital immediately. And they gave them drugs. In fact, his wife's one was so bad, they had to give her injections and all stuff. And he got home, and I said, please, wherever, did they give you ORS? He said they didn't have in the pharmacy. I said, please go out and buy it now. He said, if you don't see it, just Google, it's salt, water, and sugar. Just Google it,
the
mix it,
measurements,
and keep sipping and just drinking it, because we don't realize how quickly, with this particular cholera, how quickly you become dehydrated. You lose electrolytes, you know, it literally, people just go like that.
Yeah, you just go.
Yeah.
Well said, Uti. All right, so let's quickly move on to your story.
Oh, mine is a quick feel-good story. So we have another Guinness World Records, not finish us in Nigeria. So we have another Guinness World Record attempt. Well, it is said that she has set the record. I don't know if it's been validated yet. But the headline reads, Peter Obi celebrates Chef Grace's new Guinness World Record in home cooking marathon. So, of course, this is Chef Grace Nwokobia, who has now set the record for individual home kitchen marathon. Because I saw it and I thought,
what was the difference?
Bassi had set the record at 93 hours, but she has then gone on to set the record. So the previous record for this was 68 hours and 30 minutes. And on Friday, she began on Friday and she cooked for an impressive 86 hours. Majority of the food was donated to a charity here in Lagos.
Little Saints Orphanage.
Yeah, Little Saints Orphanage in Ilupeju. But again, like I said, feel good in the midst of all of this. Let's celebrate people that are still taking the time out to do something exceptional and showcase their talents that way. So well
mine is going to be a downer. So the police are probing the alleged murder of a fresh Unibrain graduate. So it's so sad. Apparently, this young girl, Glory Adekolure, she was murdered. And from the reports, she had gone to school for clearance, and on her way back, just shortly before she got to her house, that she said, you know, they found her dead very close to the house, and her remains were found there. So the police is currently investigating, but the brother had claimed that she was beaten, she was raped, she was killed in the Iyowa community area of Benin, the Edo state capital, you know, and her remains were dropped very close to the house. This is really sad. Going through university, graduating, and all for you to see this. As I was saying earlier, that my story, it was in final year, like literally I'd finished school. You know, we're just waiting for clearance and something, you know, those guys, thank God we were like smart enough to understand that they didn't mean well, you know. Usually when it's time, around the time of clearance and, you know, graduation, the school is a bit quieter. But it's more of, you know, final year students that are around and all of that. So you get to see that crimes like that, you know. It's just so sad that she has lost her life. We're hoping that the perpetrators would be found. All right, so we'll take a break now. When we come back from that break, we want to discuss mental health, suicide, the legal implications, and all of that. We'll have our guests with us. Stay with us. Nigeria, by extension, Africa, is faced with a lot of challenges.
With the growing youth population and very little engagement.
That is a ticking time bomb.
We're blessed people with a diverse culture who have a lot to say.
And yes, we are talking.
It is important we drive conversations that informs, inspires, and influences thoughts and actions.
If we say there is beauty in diversity, then let us embrace our diverse culture.
We must continue to courageously be the voice of transformation.
As we are the hope for the future,
Yesterday's conversation shaped today.
What are you saying to shape your tomorrow?
We know you have a lot to say, and we are here to hear you.
The fact remains, I agree with Uwa, honestly, I agree with you, that the responsibility of ensuring the protection of our children within the school system is in the hand of the parents. If the parent fails, nobody is coming for our children, the government is not coming for our children. You can see what is going on. What is the position of the Federal Ministry of Education and the institution responsible for universities in Nigeria? In the case of Ajayi Crowther University, are they issued a statement? Are they issued a statement in respect of Veritas? They've not. They are not interested. So when we keep putting our faith in the hands of people that have shown through their ways, their character, that are not interested in governance, but in their own pockets, in the way in something, in things that work for them. Why do we want to pretend?
If the foundations be bad, what can the righteous do? How do we start amending the foundation? And you talked about the Constitution. We've had so many constitutional amendments back and forth, and half the time they're for personal interest and not about we the people. So how do we go about it? Because you've also said we don't have the people. So how do we manufacture them?
You see, the collective ignorance in Nigeria is legendary, underestimated. People don't know, right? You see, it doesn't matter how determined you are. A billion fools coming together sincerely to take an action will take a foolish action. It doesn't matter how many they are or how they feel, how much they hate. Determination is not a strategy. Neither is anger, right? People have to learn to subject their feelings to reasoning and allow those reasoning to be guided by truth before they move to action. There's a lot of movement going on in Nigeria, but 99.9% of the time, it's a movement of emotion to action. The reasoning and truth is missing within the gap.
And no strategy.
Now, when you have a critical mass that are terribly ignorant, fearful, and opaque, you see, you have to understand the character of the Nigerian. He is extremely hopeful. Extremely hopeful. Now, anything you are willing to tolerate will never change. Never.
All right, thanks for staying with us. Now, following the story of a 30-year-old man who attempted to commit suicide at the Third Mainland Bridge here in Lagos, his story sheds light on the complex interplay between mental health struggles and the legal and societal frameworks designed to address them. All right, so today we want to explore navigating suicide, mental health, and its legal boundaries. And joining us is Bofa. We call her B, Joseph, right? So if you want to be part of the conversation, please make sure that you call or send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-4663. All right, so thank you so much for joining us, Bofa.
Thank you.
I call you B.
Yes.
So, I mean, this conversation, you have, first of all, you have a lot of, what do you call them? Advocates within the waste team. So there's Omolola constantly breathing down my neck. We have to speak with Bofa. There's Alero constantly breathing down my neck. You have to speak with Bofa. And I mean, you have a unique story. And not many people are able to help put light into the conversations around suicide. And, you know, especially when it comes to this side of town, right? A lot of people shy away from these things, but these are our realities. Yeah. Just before we came on the show, I was having a chat with you, and I said to you that I've been depressed. Yeah. I've been really, really depressed. I've been through, permit the word, but I've been through those things, you know. But the thought of having to take my life, right? I've never found myself to that point. But if you say gross depression, I've been inside, but that thought it has never crossed my mind. So when I see people that say they try to take their lives and all of that. I can't relate, right? And this kind of conversations will help us, have clarity as to, what was I thinking? What were the thoughts in your head? Why would you have gotten to that point where you say, you know what, I'm done? Mental health is not something to joke around with. A lot of things, especially even right now with things that stresses us. So I don't even know how, people that are already, at that red alert state, right? How they are coping with, all the challenges already. So maybe you just help us throw a bit of light, right? We're talking about navigating suicide, mental health, and of course the legalities, because the conversation, I think it was Messi that took that story last week, and I was saying that in Nigeria, they said it's illegal. So you can actually go to jail. It's a crime, right? But these are realities. How do you balance that?
I think I just start from the legal aspect of it because, in my opinion, the law is there to protect us. I want to always believe that the law is there to protect us. So even when we started the advocacy for the Mental Health Act, I just kept at the back of my mind that the original, the Lunacy Act, the act that used to be there before this one was introduced, was there to protect us. So when the state says that if you try to do it, they're going to intervene by doing something, I don't think that it's as much like, oh, we want to kill this set of people as much as it is, let us protect these people. So I'll say with a story, there's a part of the world, I don't remember exactly where now, they used to have a high rate of suicide. And everybody used to go to this bridge and jump off the bridge. So people were thinking, what do we do? They started putting up signboards to say, oh, suicide is not the answer. If you have issues, please reach out to these people. Let's see how we can help you. It didn't help at all. So what the state did was they erected sort of like bars on the bridge, very tall. It's like every time the rate increases, they increase the bars too. And it got to a point where people weren't frequenting the bridge as much. But then what we give you is that people use other means, Because if people are determined to go, then they've gotten to that point where they are determined to go. And I can't speak for everybody, right? I can't say that this is the cigarette that causes cancer, or this is the tipping point. I don't have the answer. But I do think that what happens is there are people who, for both medical reasons, for both environmental, the families that they grew up in, they're not equipped with the kind of I say the tools that you have to navigate your problems without getting to that point where suicide is the answer. That's what it is. So for you, if someone breaks your heart, you're thinking, you know what, I will be fine, I'll get a better guy. And even if that's not your immediate thought, even if you sit in your bedroom and cry for like 100 days, you have the tools. You probably have friends, you have family, you have a strong support system, you didn't grow up with trauma, you weren't abused as a child, you have a clean slate sort of, so you navigate towards, how do I get out of this, or I will just experience it and I'll move on. But other people don't have that equipment. So maybe they have childhood trauma, maybe they're already dealing with something at present. But mostly, I would say in my experience, mostly from, if you're not equipped as a child how to deal with things as you grow, you're like on the edge. So there could be things that cause you to be prone to want to make the decision. So they don't have the tools to navigate like you. So they immediately just think, I'm going to end it.
Wow. Alara, let's hear your thoughts.
I mean, for me, based on what Bofa mentioned, it's more like, as a human now, my childhood and my upbringing has allowed me to create a bubble around me. So imagine you're walking around the world and just imagine a bubble, right, protecting you. That bubble is your upbringing. That bubble is the strength you've been able to, hold as a person, as an individual. So if the bubble is not strong enough, when somebody throws something at that bubble, it's most likely would enter because the bubble is supposed to protect you. So that's where your mental strength comes from. But when it's not there, it's usually either impossible for you to feel protected or for you to protect yourself.
So, but have you ever been at that stage where you contemplated suicide?
Yes, I have. Wow. I have multiple times, and the only reason why I don't do anything about it is because I know that it's a temporary feeling. So I've been self-aware enough to understand that whatever pain I'm feeling in this moment will pass. And like Bofa said, that support system is really important.
So you have that tool?
I have that tool. I have the support system. And I also understand that if I should die today, whatever problem that I think is a problem would still be there, or it doesn't change much. But being able to fight and live for another day. It's something that I would most likely would look forward to. And if I can't handle it, I mean, there have been a moments whereby I will cry for hours because I'm stressed or I'm overwhelmed. But if I'm able to pick up the phone to call someone to say, or, you know, or my sister, there's just that one person or two people in my life that I can always like talk to and say, this is how I feel. And the person will say, shake it off now. You're a big babe, or you're strong, you can handle it. The person makes me understand that it's okay to feel that way. I mean, it happened, I've had that thought this year, and it's not like I wanted to take my life. I was just tired. It just felt like there's a cycle of life that we all go through, you know, the stress, your family, and then you're thinking about it like, to what end?
What's the point?
Like, why are we going through this whole thing? You work, you collect your salary, you're using it to pay bills, you know. There's just this cycle of life in general that makes people tired. And sometimes I just really think about it like, is this all there is? But because of the love I feel in my environment and the hope for a better tomorrow, I'm like, okay, you know what, I'm going to fight. So,
Uti, how about you? Have you ever thought about, you know, committing suicide? Wow.
That's why I live in Nigeria. I became incredibly aware of, I remember one day, I went to a shopping mall in London on Oxford Street, and it's about 5 floors, and it has escalators in the middle. And I remember getting to the top and looking down and going, wow, if I jump now, it won't make any difference now, so well, I might as well. As I had that thought and I came down from the escalator, I said, it's time to book tickets. I gotta go home. It's not, you know, so I think, you know, when you talk about the tools, when you talk about the situations that we find ourselves in, I think for me, the one thing is always having an anchor. So at one point it was my mom. Now it's my son. When I think about it, I'm like, dude, I got to see you grow up. You know, so I find myself in those situations. But I think Alera summed it up really well in talking about how I think everybody has those thoughts. If you take the religious perspective, some people say the devil whispering in your ear. Life happens. Life is lifing, as I like to say. And I mean, right now, Nigeria is Nigerian. So, you know, it's not easy. But one of the things that I often say when we have these conversations to help people start to distinguish, you know, we use that term, we're depressed a lot. But you see, we have not met depression. See, when you are feeling sad and you cry a bit, you think that that's depression. No, no, no. If you meet people that have been depressed, I don't think you can contemplate what hopelessness feels like. When you wake up and you're like, what's the point? Like, there's genuine hopelessness. There's no positivity. You say you think about the love. You say you think... There's nothing. It's just... That is the physical manifestation for me of the word meh. There's just nothing, right? And what I find is that people that get to this stage, they can't find a way out. You found something that helped you pull yourself out. They can't find a way out. So you get to the point where... Because that's why you see parents who have children, they still kill themselves. And I'm like, the love of a child should be strong enough. But that's because you're still comprehending it from rational thought. But there are people that struggle, and they can't find that rational thought. So I love when B talked about the Lunacy Act. Yes, it was designed to protect. Unfortunately, it was not designed to protect the mentally ill. It was designed to protect the populace from them. So, you have a problem, let's go and lock you away, right? And sadly, I think culturally, we've had this problem of there's a lot of stigma. There's a lot of lack of awareness and understanding. In fact, sometimes it feels weird to say thank God for COVID, but there are a lot of things that COVID pushed to the fore. And mental health, and I mean, I know everybody uses it like a buzzword now, but mental health at least got its moment in the sun in this part of the world. Because before then, everybody just like, chin up now, you're fine. Or like everybody just had some way of glossing over it. And we're not anywhere near where we should be yet. I mean, the Lunacy Act was what, 65 years old. They tried in 2003. They tried again in 2013. They took boo-boo in 2023 to sign it. And I'm not sure that since January of 2023 when it was signed, I mean, B can tell us, I'm not sure that much has changed. Because, again, I was shocked to hear that it was criminal.
It still
to
is.
actually, yeah, that's what I mean. I was shocked to hear that because the truth of it is, in my opinion, I think that makes it worse because if you are going to commit suicide, right, and you know that it's criminal, in your mind, you cannot get it wrong.
Yes,
You
no.
better die.
You must
That is what they have, that's what they've told you, that you must succeed.
Yes,
you must successfully die.
You must die trying.
Yes.
That's what they've told you.
You must successfully die.
So the truth of it is that whilst the law is, again, this is sometimes, I don't know what to call it. Is it close-mindedness? Is it short-sightedness? Where you think, I'm trying to protect you, but the thing that you're putting in place to protect me is actually doing more harm. Because the truth is, I'm like, I must get it right. So if he's find the deadliest poison to drink, jump off third
so that nothing will bring me back to life.
Nothing brings you back, right? Yeah. So the thought behind it that said, maybe if you think that you will go to jail, you won't do it, it now has the reverse effect. So my thought is, I mean, thank God that there are organizations that are fighting, because I think that in Nigeria, a lot of the time, we focus on our stomachs, we focus on we focus on money, on wealth. So whenever I hear that there's still people who are fighting things like this that are not mainstream, right, from our own cultural perspective, I just pray for them. Because we all normalize the fact that we see mentally ill people. I don't want to call them mad people. That's what we grew up calling them. When you see them walking around naked on the street, you say the person is mad. But these are all mentally ill people with real illnesses that need real help. And it's shocking to know that when we even talk about poor health care, that's in general medicine. See, in mental health, there's none.
It's not existing.
Because we are 200 million people.
I never cure cholera finish now.
No.
I will cure sickness. Why not feel fine?
I don't think that's in Nigeria. I don't think we have up to 1,000 mental health practitioners for the 200 million people that we
have. Go and call Dr. Memuna Kadri. You know that. You know what? Let's take a break, right? When we come back from that break, we'll continue the conversation. Stay with us. Nigeria, by extension, Africa, is faced with a lot of challenges.
With the growing youth population and very little engagement.
That is a ticking time bomb.
We're blessed people with a diverse culture who have a lot to say.
And yes, we are talking.
It is important we drive conversations that informs, inspires, and influences thoughts and actions.
If we say there is beauty in diversity, then let us embrace our diverse culture.
We must continue to courageously be the voice of transformation.
As we are the hope for the future,
yesterday's conversation shaped today.
What are you saying to shape your tomorrow?
We know you have a lot to say, and we are here to hear you. All right, thanks for staying with us. Now, if you just tuned in, we're having a conversation around navigating suicide. Of course, we're talking about mental health and also its legal boundaries, right? And we have Bofamene, right? Yes. Joseph. She's joined us now. Please let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-4663. Our phone line is also open. You can call us 07025007749. So let's break it down, right, to why, you know. So I understand that a lot of things play around the mind of the person that eventually decides to say they want to then eventually just end it all. But is there true justification for suicide?
Look, that's a tough question. Tough even for me, who I've had moments when I was really depressed. And I don't use it to say that I was sad. You know, I mean moments where nights were nights, days were nights, and it just went on for like a very long time. And sometimes I ask myself, why is your first thought to run instead of to stay and fight? I don't know if that's a lesson I didn't learn, but I am Nigerian, so I feel like, first of all, that makes me a strong person. For anything else, adds to that strength. I don't know that you can justify something that you can't fully understand. So justification will come when we have a full understanding of why this happens. And because when it is successful, the people aren't there to tell the story, it's really hard to see it through. But I'll try and talk about the moments or the whys that lead you to that point where you're just like, I'm done. I've learned from a lot of friends, people that when I left uni, my focus was mental health advocacy. I had a WhatsApp group where I had like 1,200 young people. Every Friday we had conversations around detailed, structured conversations, depression and work, your feelings and maybe marriage, school, job hunting, that kind of stuff, and why it was happening. And I think maybe like 10 months after I shut the group down, and people were reaching out to me and saying, why did you close this down? This was really helpful. The reason I closed it down is because I was beginning to...
You were overwhelmed.
I was overwhelmed. I couldn't continue. People would call me crying, and there's nothing that could be said. They have a good job. They have the money. It's not money. They're not hungry. Because here, when you talk about mental health, people say, no worry, if you get money way, go, they think about to die. That's not, because people have jobs. Katie Spade had a good job, a good husband from the outside, what we could see. And she had a child that she loved, and she hung herself and left a note for her daughter and said, ask daddy. And the question was, what happened to mom? And he said, your mom has been depressed for years. She's been putting up a front for you because she loves you, but like at some point, her strength couldn't carry it anymore. So people at that point were like talking about things. I didn't have to help them because if it was money, maybe I would say let's crowdsource or crowdfund for the money. If it was something else, would I be able to help? But I agree that it is an illness. I don't know if medically people can pinpoint to the part of the brain that is sick and say, okay, it is here.
Let us expunge it.
Yeah, let's do something about it. But there's a lot of theories around why people feel the way that they feel. And because I'm not able to see, to point out and say, this is the place that we've said that is wrong, it is like multifaceted. It's like a lot of things. For me, it was school, it was family, it was work, it was stuff I'd been dealing. It's like... someone said that when people go out into society, they're productive, you don't mind what they're up to when they're not productive. So it's like 9 to 5, you're productive, you're okay. What do they do when they're home from, say, 6 till the other time when they show up at work? I was completely just out of it. And at some point, I thought, you know what, I'm done too. And I remember a doctor telling me that you don't understand the severity of things. You don't understand what it means for a person to go on the journey where they get to the point where they say, I'm done. My justification, which I'm assuming is the same for a lot of people, is that if I'm gone, I'm not in pain anymore. I don't have to be here to think about what tomorrow I'm going to wake up to. So that's why people do it. Like, I just want to go. It's like they're in a burning building. You're downstairs. It's a high-rise building. And you say, like, come out. But, like, the fire is everywhere. At some point, they're going to jump. You can just shout, come out for as long as you could, but they will jump, or some of them will stay and they'll burn. But the human instinct is more likely that they will jump. So people just get to that point where they think, my justification, there's no point. Like, if I do this, I'm doing it for everybody. You don't have to deal with me anymore. You don't have to deal with me coming 10 times to say, I'm not feeling well, I'm just out. So I think that is what gets people there. The thinking of, like, if I go, then everything will be okay for everybody else. I don't have to deal with this anymore. I'm just tired. So I think that's what gets people there. But is it, like, should we do it? Is it a good thing to do then? That's like an entirely different conversation.
Because it's a tough conversation to have, Uti. I really don't know. Like, okay, so when you were talking about your children, you're looking at your child and everything, I keep saying, we pray this thing, God forbid. But the truth is, I pray for God not to give me the temptation I cannot handle. Yeah. But I also believe somewhere deep down, right? What if all these things that I'm talking about, my children, what if they're not there anymore? Do you understand? Would I still get to that point where I think that it is, I think I'm done and all of those things, right? I don't know. Because you see, the truth is you really cannot tell what would be that last trigger that would just tip, the tipping point. You can't tell, So that's why when we have conversations like this, right, I would think that a sensible government would understand that at some point, some of these laws, they were good, maybe at certain times. Where we are right now, the kinds of complication that the average Nigerian have to go through is alarming. If they're not fighting for their lives, they're fighting for their safety. If they're not fighting for their life, I mean, look at all the people that have been through kidnapping and all of that, what they've had to. Do you know the kind of trauma, right, that they would have to go through? So there's a lot that can justify why someone would decide to say, you know what, I think I'm done. So if you were the government, Uti, right, what would be the more appropriate approach, right? What should be the kind of conversations that the government should be having around the subject matter of suicide, mental health, you know?
I think that, I mean, first and foremost, we have to acknowledge that it's not our current government. And again, I don't say this from a politician's perspective. I say this as Nigerians. It is not a focus for us as Nigerians. What is the default setting for treating mental health today? They take you somewhere in the village, they tie you, they whip you, they flog you, they take you somewhere, some native health practitioner, you know. So you can't expect the leaders to magically do something that is in the collective populace, right, is not there. You can't give what you don't have. That's why I say that the few people who understand the value of this and are the voices, that's where the real work is, because before you get to the government, you have to get to the people. Now, the idea is that you get some people in government. Like I said, this is mid-2024, so that law was signed at least 17 months ago. I can't tell you how much money has been earmarked to mental health. But then for me to even talk about the money earmarked to mental health, let's talk about the money earmarked to health
itself.
So, you know, when you talk about priorities, you can see already that
it's not a priority.
It's not a priority, right? Which is what makes it so sad, because more people are living with it, which is why we play, sadly, when you look at the statistics of top countries for suicide. Unfortunately, Nigeria is on the list. In Africa, globally, we are there. We are featured. And as much as we shouldn't be, because as hard as Nigeria is, we still have community. Try the abroad. You will be in isolation in your house by yourself, and you can't even knock on your neighbor's door and say, literally, that's why I tell people that that's one of the reasons why I'm in Nigeria, because I'm so big on community. I'm big on, you know what, I'm not feeling so good right now. Just put on my slippers. Oh, how far away you day? And we'll chill. You know, we don't even have to talk about it. But at least
you just have somewhere.
You know you have somewhere. But culturally, it's not that easy abroad. So the truth for me is that what do I expect the government to do? In better climes, you expect that, yes, the right policies, the right act is in place, then the right policies to implement that act is in place, the right funding is put behind it. Today, we have medical schools. Let's even leave the practitioners. But let's even say that, you know, from a problem-solving perspective, you look at the root cause. You say there are 200 million people in Nigeria. We're talking about it. We're not even sure that there are 500 practitioners, right? If I even want to start somewhere, let me even say I'm leaving the law behind. I can incentivize people to go to school, to learn to become psychiatrists, therapists, all of those things. Because the more people get educated about it, the more the awareness spreads, right? If I'm a practitioner and I open up a practice somewhere, people will come to me, word will spread, right? That collective, I have power of influence and driving awareness. So even if it was just that, to say, let's even not think about today, let's plan 3, 4, 5 years down the line, however long it takes to gain the qualification, and say, we're going to incentivize, we're going to pay, we're going to make sure that, and that's what other countries do. So when we see countries say, oh, we are opening up student visas, and you hear them say, oh, it's particular courses, that's why. Because they have a gap. And either they start to say, you know what, we're going to open up. What was it they opened up for Nigeria the other day? Was it not farm work or something? Right? They open up visas to bring those skills into their country. Right? They incentivize. When you're going to university, they give grants. Rather than giving you loans, they give you grants that you don't have to pay back because they know they're sowing into a problem that they're trying to solve in the future. So these are the kinds of things that I expect to see that the government is doing. But like I said, it's a far way off because before you get to mental health, there's a stack of problems ahead of us.
And then a lot of people are now taking matters into their own hands to seek help by themselves. But now the challenge with that is most private practices are very expensive. The cheapest, or rather the most affordable that I have found is 25K a session, which is once a week. So how many people can afford?
That doesn't cover drugs. It
doesn't cover drugs if they will actually have to prescribe a medication for you, just to get to talk to a professional, a psychotherapist who would analyze your situation and even advise you. At least you have somebody to talk to. That costs 25,000 naira a week. So what happens when you don't have that support? Like I was talking about it, that I had a very close family member that we had to take to Yaba Left. Why? Because we noticed that there were a couple of mental issues that needed support. And you know what? How everybody talk about Yaba Left, there's a stigma to it that it's only people that roam around the streets that they take there. But when I actually got into that facility, I saw people that looked like me. I saw people, older women, older men, younger, and these people are getting help the best way that they can. The facility is doing their bits to ensure that they are able to help these people, but is it sufficient enough? I really don't know. And honestly speaking, if you don't have money in this country, like you said, there are other problems that you're trying to solve. So mental health issues is not placed at the priority. Another sad part is that the stigma that is being associated with either mental health or even the suicide thoughts, it's so painful that a lot of people would rather pretend, and some people are good at it. You will never suspect anything is wrong with them. Why? Because they don't want you to look at them with that kind of eye. But they are going through so much. Their family members, their husbands, their wife, their children is probably the trigger to their mental problem. And at the end of the day, every man for himself. But like Bofamene mentioned, having a community also helps. And there are a couple of other, NGOs that are basically supporting people with mental health issues. Personally, I advocate for it. I advocate for mental wellness and self-awareness. And the reason is because it starts from there. It starts from you being able to understand who you are, understand your triggers. So if people they should call you whatever name that they want to call you, protect yourself and take yourself away from whatever situation that you know can make your matter worse or make situations worse.
Well, so if you had something to say to someone, what would that be? And, how did you eventually decide to seek help? And, what was the final thing that made you say, you know what, I think I just need to find help? And how did you find help?
I'll start with what I'll tell people. So I would say get help, right? Because you can't help yourself if you're ill of something. It's like you need a specialist to decide that this is what this is. I remember being in a session with my therapist and talking about language, before people say psychia, and immediately you hear psychia, you already know that they're talking about someone, or they refer to someone as being, mentally ill, but in a negative way. But now it is, people say therapists. People say, I want to see my therapist. And maybe the person is not educated enough. They can't even guess who you want to see. So language matters a lot when you're talking about your health, even for yourself. The World Health Organization has said that you don't say committed suicide because you already are giving them a crime. You say died by suicide. It's easier on the person's memory, on the person's family. And when you see they committed something. So language helps. So I would say get help, because just talking that you have depression isn't going to solve it for you. And in my opinion, even just having the drugs will not do it for you. I took antidepressants for years. At some point I would be off them, I would be on them. That's what happens when you take prolonged medicine. Some people have the discipline to do it till the end, other people don't. But so see a doctor and get the kind of care that works for you, someone who understands you. If I go into therapy and I don't like my therapist, I'm not going back. In fact, I would tell the psychiatrist that sent me to the therapist, I don't like your therapist. I don't like how they make me feel during sessions. It is your right to get that help. So get it. Go and see a therapist. If you want to hide while you're doing it for a while, it's okay. You don't owe anybody an explanation as to what is wrong with you mentally. when you're ready to share your story, you can come out and you can share it. And then for me, what got me to the point, I think it was love of family. For a long time, that didn't matter to me. Not that I took it for granted, but I wasn't at a point where I could consider that this is the reason to hold, like this is love for family, and you know, like it was strong enough to keep you. I'd never told my mom that I had depression. I just couldn't talk about it because I thought, how would she go to bed at night knowing that some days I feel like this, I don't want to stay here. So one day I called her and I told her that I'm depressed. And I tried to explain it in a way that she would understand as a boomer, to say that there are days when I don't want to be here. There are days when I don't want to talk to you. When you call me, my phone is ringing, I can see it. There's nothing, I don't want to talk to you. And that happens to me. You know, she told me that, I think you're doing enough. That's the first thing she said. She said that I know that you're going to have those moments when you feel like you're not doing enough, but, you know, I think you're doing enough. For where you are, you stay very far away from me, you know, with family. When I had that conversation with my mom, after the conversation, I cried and cried and cried and cried. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to go see a therapist. For me, that was the start into long periods of seeing a therapist, falling back, getting up again to go. So I'd say see someone. A professional. You don't have to know them. You can call them on the phone. And there's some services that are subsidized now. If you're a student, it's easier for you to see.
So I just wanted to quickly add to that question now.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're truly in the clear? Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Because again, sometimes something can just trigger
you. Yeah.
Right?
I think that I was going to ask, because
Yes.
when you also talked about the medication as well, I've spoken to people in the past who say they didn't like the way the medication made them feel and they stopped. So did you feel that it helped you?
I didn't. Honestly, I didn't. And I hope that this is not a shit on anybody who's ever offered me medical help, but it didn't help me. When I'd stopped the drugs, I'd feel like I was going to pass out. That's how they made me feel. Like when I was on the drugs, rather. It's like I'm walking on the road and it's like if I turn too quickly, it's like I'm going to pass out. And I remember talking to a friend, an older friend about it, and she said, you know what, tell them to change the medication. So they changed medication. The thing about antidepressants is they make you suicidal. It is on the leaflet. They can make you feel like dying, even though they're there to primarily help you. Just that the doctor has seen that they will be of more help to you than they would be to. So that's why they prescribe them. Am I in the clear? I don't know. I feel like that is a question that I will answer probably at another time. But I do know that I have more tools now than I had before. I found a good therapist at some point in my journey who was very present and even helped me think about things in a way that I'd never considered. One time I was in a session with her, one session, and she said that the person that you are when you're depressed and the person that you are when you're not in those episodes, they're totally different people. So one has to offer grace to the other person. My whole life I just thought about Bofa, the depressed person, and how she acts in those moments. But to see, not to avoid responsibility, but to see that, oh, I am a whole person. I just have sometimes I have these moments. It really helped me. That was our first session together when she said that, and it really helped me. So I wouldn't say that the drugs 100% help. They are a tool, but you still need talk therapy. You need community. You need something that you love that you can.
So in the
need
end,
all of it.
from what I hear you say, love is very powerful.
It's very.
It's a very
and
powerful
it's overrated,
tool.
but it's.
So I think maybe we should show more love.
Yeah.
Be a little more empathetic, compassionate, and all of that. Wow.
Yep. It's just like you're walking on the street and you don't know what somebody is going through, and you just make a very nonsense statement.
Or because you feel angry, you decide I have to let me express how I feel
right now.
I look at people, I just smile. I've been through some things, and I can say for a fact that at some point you really must have those tools. And if you must cry. I mean, I remember the day I got my healing. I was at the beach. We started the cry from 9 a.m. I didn't finish that cry till 5 p.m. in the evening. But by the time I finished that cry, since that day, I've not seen tears in my eye. I have more arrogance with you.
I recommend crying too.
Yes, crying is the best.
I mean, I tell everybody,
just let it flow.
When you are overwhelmed, it's the fastest way to channel emotions out.
You understand? Just cry
wail.
Out. Wail. If you must scream. If you must whatever. So that's why sometimes people look at me and they say, I'm tough. I'm not
tough. Where?
I have, how you there's everything I have gone through, 0 to 1,000 kind of emotions. So now, when they bring your own, is you are a small fry in the scheme of things. But thank you so much, Boma. I mean, this was a very good conversation. I really, really enjoyed the conversation, and I'm really hoping that we're able to help someone out there. I think we have a comment from Daniel Ilo. Who is going to take it?
I guess. Okay, so I can even start it without seeing it.
Yes,
Good evening, my dear beautiful sisters of What Are You Saying? #Ways, navigating suicide, mental health, and its legal boundaries. Suicide is deadly and cannot be the solution to any problem. My dear beautiful sister Uti made mention of Nigeria being among the list of suicide action. Mental health is a normal phenomenon, and it has to be identified and taken care of. I agree with my dear beautiful sister Uwa when she said that she forbids us from having mental issues. When we are attacked mentally, we're totally disorganized and abnormality sets in. The only way to tackle mental issues is to recognize it and deal with it immediately before it gets out of hand. People involved in suicide action should seek for advice and counseling, which is safe and proper. My dear beautiful sisters of Ways, oh wow, today is my birthday. I am just one. Wish me well. We wish you all the best wishes.
Daniel,
happy birthday, Daniel.
I was just going to say that the beginning of the show, we're supposed to wish a happy birthday to the governor of Delta State, because today is also his birthday, his +1.
Awesome.
So
happy birthday, Daniel.
Happy birthday, His Excellency. Yes, and happy birthday to Daniel Ilo. Wow,
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
We wish you well.
So you're sharing birthday with, you better go and pay homage with big people.
But, you know.
Happy birthday. You should have sent us your picture. At least let us display it and show it and say, you know what? This is our Ways regular
This
fan.
is the person showing Ways real love.
Real love.
So much love. Daniel, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I mean, we had so much fun. Thank you so much, Bofa. And I think for the first time, I'm able to kind of like have small light into the mind, you know, of, so it is important for us to continue to keep the conversations going. Yeah. We can't exhaust it because your experience will be completely different from somebody else's experience. But the more we talk about it, the easier it gets for people to then have that understanding and more awareness on the subject
People
matter of
be kind.
Yeah, just be kind. Just be kind. People are harsh.
If you don't,
and you think sometimes it is because the way I'm feeling, I want to put that same pain on somebody else. You know, they work.
Just be kind.
The only way you can win, and I've learnt it, is never ever harbor bitterness. I say to people, emotions, if it's coming like this, you can't tell emotions, say stop here. Don't go past this hand. I lie. It will spread like a cancer. So the best thing to do is never let it, overwhelm you.
Absolutely.
But thank you so much, ladies. I think we had an amazing time. All right, so before we go, ensure you follow us across all our social media handles. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please interact with us. Like, share, invite your families and friends to watch and follow the conversation. If you missed our quote for today, here it is again. It says, though no one can go back and make a brand new start, anyone can start and make a brand new ending. I mean, this is such a beautiful quote, right? It's never late to just start. We love you. We're supporting you, whoever you are. Please, suicide is not the answer.